Today we're going to be learning how to use the Memory Palace to remember references, and then we'll actually get to memorize one verse. Quick review of the layout of the Memory Palace. Balcony porch, bedroom, bathroom, magenta ladder, attic, toy room, spiral staircase, library, girls' room, theater, straight staircase, den, office, magenta hall, closet, birdcage, basement, kitchen, dining room, conservatory. Now here's the technique for remembering references. For each chapter, each room will have a different verse. So verse 1 will always be on the balcony porch, verse 2 will be in the bedroom, etc. Now the way you'll be able to remember any verse from any reference is that when someone gives you a verse number, you should be able to think of the right room. Of course, we don't want to have to put in a lot of painstaking work to remember the numbers of each of these rooms. So the trick is instead to count from the nearest multiple of 5. You should be able to remember that the attic is 5, the theater is 10, the closet is 15, and the conservatory is 20. So what you would do is, for example, which room would hold verse 16 of any chapter? 16 is right after 15, so it will be the one right after the closet, which is the birdcage. So where is verse 8? Well, 5 is the attic, so we count 6, 7, 8, the library. That's how we'll remember verses. Any verse 4 is at the magenta ladder, and any verse 13 is in the little blue office, etc. Okay, so how do we distinguish between chapters? Well, we can tell chapters apart by what object Loeb is holding. Remember that for each chapter, he'll be going through the whole Memory Palace one verse at a time. Well, for each chapter, he'll be going through holding a different object. The object for the first chapter is a hat. So when someone says James 1:12, here's the thought process. Chapter 1 translates to object 1, which is the hat. And verse 12 translates to location 12, which is the den. So what would Loeb be doing with a hat in the den? That's how you remember that verse. That may seem like an awkward sequence of thoughts to go through, but trust me, this process becomes much smoother with a little practice. Still, let's go over what Loeb would be doing with the hat in the den. So it seems reasonable to think that Loeb would be sitting comfortably in that nice green chair, the most comfortable seat in the whole house, and feeling blessed that he gets to be there. Unfortunately, he happens to be sitting on the hat, which isn't all that comfortable and completely ruins his experience. But actually, for some reason, he thinks that if he stays seated without moving, steadfastly remaining as he is, someone will reward him for this strange sort of trial. Suffice it to say that Loeb is a bit of an eccentric character in the way he applies his principles. Now, thinking of Loeb sitting on a hat in a comfortable chair should prompt these 3 keywords: blessed, steadfast, trial. These are the 3 keywords to remember for the first part of James 1:12. Blessed is the man who remains steadfast under trial. Now you may object to this approach and say that we're trivializing the meaning of the verse with these silly mnemonics, but that's not my intention at all. I know that the story of Loeb sitting on his hat is a bit silly, but the purpose is just to give you a memorable cue that will cause you to think of the verse, which has its own rich meaning independent of the mnemonic. The more you practice using this method, the more quickly you can forget the mnemonic as you recite the verse. For now, though, focus on the keywords that connect the two. James 1:12a has 3 keywords: blessed, steadfast, trial. Now for the second half of the verse. While sitting on his hat, Loeb has already talked with his sister Libby about this hat-sitting experiment. He calls it a trial, but she thinks that he's just testing the hat to see whether it will be ruined. And she personally doesn't like to see hats ruined in this way because she loves the way he looks in hats. So she decides that she should replace the smashed hat with a crown, which would be less easily smashed and ruined. Why does she care? Because she has promised to him that she would always give him new hats when he loses his old ones, because she loves the way he looks in a hat. To recap, she thinks that his sitting on his hat is a test, but she thinks they should use a crown instead, because she promised to keep him always in new hats because of how much she loves hats. So these 4 keywords turn into James 1:12b. For when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life, which God has promised to those who love him. So James 1:12, which is a fairly long verse, has these 7 keywords: blessed, steadfast, trial, test, crown, promised, love. Try to remember these key words. The quiz below will help you with that, and it may take a few tries to make sure you have all 7. There will actually be 3 questions in the quiz on James 1:12, one for the first 3 keywords, one for the latter 4 keywords, and one for all 7. Make sure to keep quizzing until you get them all right. Then, see if you can recall the whole verse from those 7 keywords. It's no big deal if you can't, because we'll be reviewing the verse tomorrow, but just make sure that you get the keywords solid by remembering the story of Loab sitting on his hat in the den.